time tonight? No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Sorry, I just saw
Everybody
your
here?
message.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you? Ooh, hey. In stereo. In stereo. All right, it's 2:35. We will call the meeting to order.
Yes.
I'm going to start with roll call.
Director Espinoza,
Presente.
Director Hoag,
Here.
Director Serrato, Director McDaniel, Director Moran, Director Nagy,
Here.
Director Nelson,
Here. Director
Director Pereira, Director Pedroso,
Here.
Director Silvera, Chair Yanez.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
All right, roll into item 2, the public comment. Do we have any public comment before we start closed session? All right, seeing none, we'll roll into item 2. Item 3, closed session. Item 3A, Merced County Association of Governments, Public Employee Cal Government Code, Section 56957, position Executive Director. And item B1, conference with Property Negotiators, Government Code, Section 54956.8.
Here.
All right, it's 3:13. We're back from the closed session. Sure. Do we have any public comment on the closed session items? All right, seeing none, turn it over to council.
So the report out from closed session on item 3A is that direction was given to staff as to how to proceed. The report out on item 3B, the purchase of the subject property was authorized under terms and conditions that will be finalized in a contract that will be made available to the public upon request.
Super squeaky mic. All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. Can I get roll call, please?
Director Espinoza,
Oh, sorry. Listen to this guy. Here.
Director Hoag,
Here.
Director Serrato,
Here.
Director McDaniel, Director Moran, Director Nagy,
Here.
Director Nelson,
Here.
Director Pereira,
Present.
Director Pedroso,
Here.
Director Silvera, Chair Yanez.
Here, and we have a quorum. Do I have any volunteers for the invocation? Yes, you want to? Yeah, okay.
Thank you for participating with me if you do. Heavenly Father, I lift up this board. I ask that you give us wisdom and guidance that we might do the work of the people and that we might be fair in what we do, that we take into account all the concerns and that we are not punitive to anybody. I also pray that you give us your grace and your guidance, and I pray that we make decisions that uplift Merced County. We all call this our home. We love this place. We want to see it prosper, and we ask that you continue to give us your blessings. Amen.
Director Hoag, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 6, approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, we have 2 items to request for change. Staff is requesting that we pull item 10A7.
That is a request to authorize a contract with HDL for sales tax auditing and recovering services. There's a desire to make some additional changes to the attached contract before requesting board authorization. And the second is also a request to move item 15C. That's the proposed agenda item for consideration, landfill management options, to occur immediately after consent, new item 11. So pull item 10A7, and it'll be on November's agenda, and move 15C to the new item 11, which would immediately follow the consent calendar.
Chair, motion to approve with those changes.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, move on to item 7, public comment. Do we have any public comment today? No? Anyone online? No? Okay, move on to item 8, reports and presentations. Item 8A, Caltrans District 10.
You have Anand. There he is.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a PowerPoint here, and I'll be going over key projects, and then I'll cover some action items, and then we can go jump into question and answers after that. So with that, let's start with our, oh, does I have a clicker here? Great. Well, let's see. So we'll go from, we'll take a journey east to west. So we'll start with our first project. We use our EA 1Q520. It's a crosswalk and flashing beacon in Merced and Joaquin Stanislaus here in Planada. We start with Planada. It's at Cedar Street. And this project proposes a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, crosswalks, curb ramps, warning signs, and originally started as a IIJA project as a proven safety program, but it required delivery within a year or two by end of 25, 26. So therefore, it was not feasible under that. So what they did was the requirements for those 8 locations were it needed 22 months for environmental and 18 months for right-of-way. So therefore, maybe I'm not pressing. Yeah. So then we change it to complete street program. So we tried to get funding under complete street program. We dropped 4 locations, brought the schedule down by a year in environmental, and but right now the funds are not available. So we are going back, and the team is looking into coming back as a proactive safety project, getting it programmed under our shop. And what we are looking at is that the drop locations, should we add them back, which will add a year, or we continue with the 4 locations we had. So we have to update our PIR, our feasible document first, and move forward with that one. We move further a little bit west. The next is our Planada intersection improvement, and that's the roundabout we are proposing at Plainsburg, which it has a construction capital of $4.5 million. Total cost $11 million, includes right-of-way. Construction is going to start September 2025. Right-of-way is still the critical path. Acquisition. So right now, as of today, all 4 parcels are scheduled to go to CTC meeting in January, and we hope 3 or 4 parcels will be able to reach agreement, but there might be one northwest corner parcel which might go to condemnation. Still, some few utility location items are left. One is our Planada Community Service District plans, the sewer system which we are relocating. We anticipate by end of the month we'll have their plans. We move further west. This is 0U230 is a Merced widening project. So we had done PSR in October 2018, it had three alternatives. Alternative A was proposing, all of them proposed 4 to 6 lanes for now, but it was buying right away for future 8 lanes. And the right of way was staggered. It was east on the south, middle, both ways in the middle, and again east on the north. The only alternative with 1B is that it was seeking right of way only for 6 lanes, not for future 8 lanes. Alternative 2, it was similar, but the new right of way was being proposed only on the east side of 99. Alternative 3 is similar to alternative 1, but it was being proposed in phases. So that'll help with funding issues. So what the team is going to do is we have our kickoff October 30th for this project and the next project, and team will be looking into these alternatives and see which one is feasible or add another alternative which will be feasible based on the current environment we are in. So this is from the project study report done in 2018. So you see it's $500 million to more than $1 billion project. We'll look into how we can bring the cost down. And similarly, if we go for the north on 99 is our Atwater widening project. This was done, PSR was done in September 2018. All alternatives propose 4 to 6 lanes with future right away for future 8 lanes. And the only difference between alternative 1 and 2 was how the interchange at Applegate was going to be, at grade, above grade. And alternative 3, difference was that it was going to realign 99 totally. Alternative 4 was similar to phase 1, alternative 1, but it was in phases, so to ease with funding. So team again we'll have a kickoff on October 30th, and the team will be looking into ways to make these alternatives more realistic. And this is the cost estimate for this section of widening. So now we move further north and south. We have 59 pavement anchor project that's going to rehab. That one is the project report, which is end of environmental phase, is end of November 2024. We are seeking our design and right-of-way funds in December CTC meeting. So we're moving forward with that. The risk is right-of-way. Because the PNED was late in delivering, the right-of-way time to acquire those 60 parcels is very tight. So construction capital is $11.5 million, and design will be done in January 2025. So we move north. We have Merced 59 4-lane widening. This project is PR. We are working on the PR. You might be aware of that. We need to amend the FTIP, and when that's done, we'll get air conformity from FHWA, and then the PR will be signed, hopefully by end of the year. Now we move south. We have 0V690, 59 Merced pavement anchor project. This one will improve the concrete railing, approach railings, and with overlay with the concrete on the Owens Creek, Miles Creek, and Deadman's Creek bridges. It will replace Mariposa Creek Bridge, which will be raised about 10 feet. So for that, we will be having 1-lane closure with the signals, temporary signals during that closure. Construction capital is $20 million, total cost $27 million. Critical path is right now Central Valley Flood Protection Board permit. That's what we are waiting for right now. The project is ready to go forward. So we were able to get 12-month extension from CTC to deliver. So now the end of design is June 2025. And the and the project will be done in December 2027. So now we have time, and as per MCAG request, we were looking into additional scope at El Nido. So looking at what can be done. We have time while we're waiting for the permit. So the team is looking into it. Right now they know that we can add flashing beacon crosswalk, and we can address the flooding issue. But what they are looking into is the sidewalk, which will require right away, which will take 2 years, and we'll lose our funding. So that's why most likely we will not have the sidewalk. Please, yeah.
So why does it take 2 years to do right away purchase? Is that your guys' timeline, or is that like, because I don't think that's a realistic timeline. If you guys need to get it done, it would seem to me, I actually on this particular piece, I know at least on the east side of the road there, I know both of those property owners. I believe one of them's the county and the other one's Mr. McLaughlin there, and so I would imagine all it would take is just a simple phone call and they'd be ready to go.
Definitely. Then we will approach you.
Please do, because I don't mean to be perfect. Thank you.
Great.
I do just want to add thank you, Anand, for speaking to this component. When we worked with the Caltrans team about the pavement anchor project, Elizabeth and I both identified the opportunity to look at the El Nido community, and the traffic goes through pretty quickly. So looking at what pedestrian-friendly enhancements could be added. So I just want to say thank you. I know that timing was an issue, so whatever we can do, as the Director Silvera mentioned, to help contribute to this component in particular, we're on board. Thank you for including it.
And the impact of additional scope will be, the team is still looking into additional resources and costs needed for construction and right away, but we know for sure that we'll need supplemental fund for PSNE. So we have to go to CTC for that. So now we move further west. We are in Los Banos, 152 pavement project. Here, apart from pavement upgrade, we are doing curb ramps, driveways, sidewalks, bike lanes, addressing existing drainage and ITS elements. So here we just had a kickoff, June 10th. We met with the city yesterday on their request. We are also including West I Street improvement. So the construction capital cost right now is nearly 30 million, and design and end of design will be in March 2026. We move further west at 59 Gerard Avenue intersection improvement. Oh, we went back. This is a single lane roundabout we are proposing, which includes curb ramps, lighting, flashing beacon, camera system, and traffic monitoring station. Drainage improvement, signage. Here we are still negotiating with the 6 owners. We were ready to go to CTC, but we went back. We pulled those projects. We are negotiating with owners here. We are waiting for utility relocation from 5 utilities. But the critical path is right now right-of-way acquisition here. Construction capital is $5.5 million, and design will end June of 2025. Now we move to Merced 33. This is a curb ramp, sidewalk, and driveway project. Its construction capital is $5 million. It's 60% done. There are 2 locations. So on the right is Dos Palos, left is Gustine. And Dos Palos work will be done by end of November, and Gustine work will be done by spring, so weather dependent. Yeah. So I'll be covering few ongoing activities. We have flooding on 99, so district team is working with MCAG and Regional Waste Authority and looking into it, resolving that issue. And other is, which was raised and requested, which is striping on 99 in Merced Atwater. So for that, I have a video here. If we can share that video, please. Yeah, anyone. Yeah, all three. What the video will show is this: there's striping, but like when you're driving at this time of the year into the sun, there's a total internal reflection. So when you see up front, there's no striping, but when you see in the rear view, you see it's brand new striping. So so this driver was really smart. He did that for us. I said, wow, I didn't even think about that. So he's showing us the yellow line, white line, nothing is visible, and then he will. Oh, he got a call right now. Sorry. So, so he will show you the white line here. He shifts lane and look at how visible it is. So what he say, he knows about this area so well in our maintenance guy that at this time of the year, the sun angle is like this, and he was talking about tomato juice spill. And after the first rain, this goes away. So the team is looking into, we have four maintenance projects, which will be improving striping on the structures. Certainly that will help. Hopefully we'll look into that. And then and we'll look into with traffic ops, safety, how we can address this issue, if there's a way to address this issue.
Could I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, sure, please.
So you said on that striping, when it rains, they become visible again?
Yeah, visible.
So why can't you just take a water truck and create rain at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when nobody's on the highway? Just wash it.
I'll suggest that.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a good, but.
And then just one, and really what I wanted to talk about was the flooding on State Route 59. So I met with our team, that's in my district. But about a mile north of there's a second spot where there's flooding. And so I hate to see that get lost if it's not.
Spots.
Okay.
There are three spots that have been identified, and our team is looking into. They have identified the reasons, and now they are looking into how to mitigate that.
Perfect, thank you.
So these are the maintenance projects which will improve striping, and the remaining two projects will also improve the striping at on and off ramps. So they are in. So that's what's happening now and soon. And these two maintenance projects will improve striping at on and off ramps at these locations. So. And of course, the new signage on V Street, it's there. Someone in maintenance received the email from CHP that it's being appreciated.
Just thanks again to the District 10 team. I know that that several supervisors, the mayor, I believe is Director Pereira, brought this up several times, and Mayor Director Serrato, others, and Caltrans came out and we did a walking audit of the area and looked at short-term improvements, and this looks excellent. When the internet likes it, you know that you've done something right because it's all over Facebook. So thank you for those improvements.
If I might, Stacy, is the going the opposite direction, the right-hand turn green arrow, do you know if that's still in play? If you're headed south and you're going to turn right on 140, that it has to be a green light for traffic to go.
Yes.
But there's times where it could be a green arrow to clear the traffic that's in the that's on V Street in the intersection.
It would just have to time with the exit traffic is what you're
Correct.
Okay. I don't know if they're looking at timing, but let me ask that question.
Because it's a one-way, so I mean it's easy to put a green arrow.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, that's it. Thank you.
All right, questions from directors?
I just want to say thank you for, I'm the one that brought up the striping, and so I appreciate that and look forward to seeing anything that we can do and to get it, even brighter, I think, for safety issues. But thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Extremely thorough. We really appreciate it. Appreciate all your work. Thank you all for that. And thanks for the 140 and V improvements. I think the community's really responded positively to that. So again, our thanks for that. Looking forward to the continued cooperation, I know people are continuing to look into different ways to improve that intersection as well. 140 and V, 140 and R, both those have some traffic congestion. So whatever the city of Merced can do working with you to address those is much appreciated, and continued work on that. And then one last thing too, as the fall comes and all the irrigation water comes out of the creek, and there's a brief window to get in, depending on the rains, to clean out some of the debris, especially at the bridges. So the 16th Street Bridge over Bear Creek is a notable spot where a lot of debris, trees, branches tends to accumulate. So I know I've had conversations in the past with different with Caltrans as well about addressing that as well, whether it's taking the debris out or cutting it to loosen it so the flows take it away. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I can follow up too offline. So that's a big concern to us potentially as the rains come with to the flood mitigation. Thank you.
Anyone else? This side? No. All right. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thanks, Anand.
Move on to item 9, information items. These items are included for informational purposes. No presentation will be made by staff unless board members have any questions. Are there any questions on any of the informational items? All right, we'll move on to item 10, consent calendar. Consent calendar items listed below may be acted upon in one vote unless specifically removed for separate consideration by a member of the board, staff, or a member of the public. I'll ask the public first. Any public comment on item 10? No. From directors?
Move to approve with noting that number 7 is pulled.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Item 11, action items.
We're going to take 15A out of order. 15C.
C.
15C for the new 11 if we can.
Okay. So that'd be, okay.
So we'll do it 10 and a half.
Okay, I was going to say 11 pre-A. All right.
Pre-11.
Yeah. Yeah, pre-11A, I guess. Yeah, so item 15C. We'll start with that action item.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me find my notes here. So this item is the original item 15C, proposed agenda item for landfill management options. This item was placed on the agenda at the request of Director Pedroso and with the Executive Director to ascertain if there's board support to discuss and explore various options for the management of the Regional Waste Management Authority operations. So when, and I'll just add, and I'll turn it over to Director Pedroso. Per our agenda item policy, the majority of the board has to express support on a new item or a new project prior to staff spending any time towards that item. So that's what this vote is today. But I also will say, with what the Director Pedroso and I both talked about, there were a lot of efficiencies that, as James and I are planning a couple of long-term planning documents around capacity, studies, and kind of broader regional management issues with some of the landfills in our area, saw this as a nexus that maybe could be a study that could do an analysis of a number of things. But I'll turn it over to Director Pedroso to talk about what he's proposing.
No, I just think that I think it's best if we just kind of look at, like you said, there's a lot of things that are coming up long term, and I know that there's been some questions in regards to what we can do moving forward and to better serve our constituents and serve our clientele. And if we can look at an analysis moving forward, and then also partnering with some of the other counties who have mentioned or who have asked about doing regional sites, I think now's the time to do it. So I would respectfully request that, the members of the board agree and say, hey, let's go out, let's spend some staff time to really look at this and see where we can find some efficiencies.
Any other comments, questions?
No, I think this it's an opportune time, and I do know that some other supervisors in neighboring counties are just talking about, how do we become more efficient at what we do? And I think that if I've said it at one of our supervisor meetings, it's just in government, our most expensive proposition every year is our human resources. And so as we move forward, we need to start looking at things through the lens of not duplicating services. And so how do we not duplicate services? Example I like to give is the trucks that suck the leaves out of the drains, right? A city like Gustine and a city like Dos Palace, I guess the cost on those things are about $500,000 a rig, give or take. And so folks like Dos Palace and Gustine have to go spend this $500,000 on something that they're going to use, a quarter of the time. Well, does it make sense? And I'm just using you two as examples because you guys are smaller jurisdictions. Does it make sense for each one of you to have to go buy a $500,000 machine? Or do you look at a broader area that says, well, we have enough work in this geographical quadrant, if you will, that we need 3 of them would do the work, but a larger city, say Las Manas, for example, they need 2 1/4 of trucks to do their work, and Dos Palace needs it 1/4, and Gustine needs it 1/4. So how do you say, well, is there some kind of way that we can make this work to where they're paying Las Manas isn't having to pay for a whole nother one that they only need 1/4 of the time. Dos Palace and Gustine are only paying 1/4 of one. So I think along those lines, anytime that we can look at things to not duplicate services, I think is the way that we're going to have to learn how to function as government. And so for that reason, I'm very supportive of asking staff to spend a little bit of time and kind of maybe give us some, at least research it out there and see what kind of options exist.
Anyone else?
Much as I'd like to go against Supervisor Pedrosa or Director Pedrosa, especially in particular persuaded by Scotty's elaborate analogy, I'm in support.
Anyone else? Yep.
So I'll go ahead and make the motion that we direct staff to look at landfill management options.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Do we have any public comment? Now that I'm jumping the gun over here. No, seeing none. All right, now we'll do that again. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All right. All right.
Your nay.
One nay. Okay. All right. Motion passes. Okay, now we'll move on to the real 11A. Adopt the final multi-jurisdictional local road safety plan, and for this, we'll go to Meg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, directors. Today, we are seeking approval of the final multi-jurisdictional local road safety. Is that a little bit better? Okay. You may remember back in August, our consultant, Fair and Peers, presented the draft multi-jurisdictional local road safety plan, and then it was released for a 30-day public review period ending on September 15th. We did not receive any comments, and just some very brief background on the plan. It covers the 6 cities. It does not include the county since they were developing their own local road safety plan. And over the last year, we've been coordinating with local jurisdictions and stakeholders through a technical advisory committee to develop the plan, and we also conducted in-person outreach in the spring of earlier this year. The plan's divided into 2 volumes. The first includes chapters that apply to all 6 cities, and then volume 2 includes chapters that apply to each jurisdiction, including collision data, profiles, and conceptual projects. We're encouraging local jurisdictions to adopt the plan at the local level as well, which is a requirement for certain federal funding programs. And moving forward, we're also going to convene a safety task force to implement and monitor the plan, which would meet on a quarterly or a biannual basis. And this is one of the requirements for federal funding. And I just want to thank local jurisdictions for their participation in the development of the plan, and for the consultant, Fair and Peers, their excellent work as well. And with that, we can answer any questions. Our consultant, Fair and Peers, is also available online. Thank you.
Questions from the board? Seeing none.
There's a request to adopt.
Do we have public comment? Any public comment? No? Anyone online? No?
Chair's aware, motion to approve.
Motion, we have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor? Aye. No opposition? All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, move on to item 11B, adopt the MCAG procurement policy and procedures. For this, we'll go to Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item requests the board's adoption of a new procurement policy and procedures for MCAG. This document, if approved, would replace the agency's existing purchasing policy that was last updated in 2009, and also establish procurement procedures based off of the requirements that are established essentially for federal funding. We currently have two different documents that we work out of, both our agency set procurement policy and then the FTA or federal funding procurement manual. This has been on my to-do list or desire to get a more user-friendly, easier to follow, better reference document for many, many years. And I finally just locked myself in my office in the spring and said, this is what we're going to do. And we did it. So it was a bit of, so I overhauled it rather than edited. And that's why you don't have a red line version, because I took those two documents and combined them into one and added some efficiencies where I thought they could work. So on the staff report on pages of 141 through 144, that includes a bulleted list of the changes that were made section by section. I will say that the changes that are listed are all, I would say, very minor. It's things like, including documentation procedures so staff knows kind of what the expectation is. It has things that reference different types of technologies or different standards as to how information will be made available. Nothing substantive in that regard. The one significant change is in the section that authorizes the executive director's expenditure authority. It has been $30,000 for the last 15 years at least. I don't know when it was set, but I found record back to at least 15 years ago. And I am proposing that be increased to $100,000. So what that would mean, if implemented, is that any purchases or contracts that fall under a $100,000 threshold could be signed by the executive director without having to come to the board. They still would be included in the quarterly contracts report that you all see 4 times a year. Those things would still have to follow our procurement rules. It just would mean that we wouldn't need to come through the board process. And for anything under 100,000, the policy does specify that is including your extension year options. So it couldn't be a contract of 100,000 with 3 $100,000, extension options. It's the contract term with all possible extensions would have to be under $100,000. In reality, it's not going to impact a whole lot. I included on page 143 the contracts over the last 3 years that would not have come to the board under this policy, and it gives you a sense of what those look like. They would still need to be in the budget and all of the other things. It's just, as of right now, if we had a $25,000 contract or purchase, I have the authority to do it. So that threshold would be at 100,000. Which is still not as high as, I think the federal micro purchase is 350,000 I don't know, I think it's somewhere around there. But I would be requesting that be included in this document. And I'm happy to answer any questions or address anything in the item or in the policy, should you have some.
Questions? No? Seeing none. Questions from the public?
That seems like a rather large, it's 3 1/3 times what we have now. And I could see escalating because of inflation and so forth. But it seems like even most of these ones that you gave examples of, even if you want 75,000, I mean, I'm definitely for increasing it. I just don't know where the 100,000 came from. And don't compare us to the federal government because
No.
they have trillion-dollar deficits, so.
I can tell you, when this was first being discussed, like I said, it's been on my to-do list for a couple of years. It was right around the time when the county had changed the CEO's authority, I believe, from under 100, like in the general area, to 100,000. I think it's since been changed again. So it went from 10,000 for the CEOs to 100,000, and that's where I got the mark from. Has it been changed again? I thought someone had said now it's 200. Either way, that was what it was based on back then. So the number's been in my head since then, that it was comparable to, when you think of heavy equipment and things like that. Obviously, we have a lot of similarities in that regard. But 75, if that is, this is the board's decision. I just use the county example as the threshold to start with.
Should we negotiate with NAV?
He's a better negotiator, yes.
I just wanted to know where.
Yeah, and honestly, it doesn't even need to change. It's just.
It would expedite a lot of projects. When you've got a sewer line and you have to wait for the board meeting, and you just had one last week.
Yeah, it does.
Any other questions from board?
A comment is I know when we made the switch at the county level, it had been 10,000 for like ever, and back when that policy was established, $10,000 was a significant number. And I understand like every jurisdiction is different, but when you spend $1,000 in staff time for every item you look at on an agenda, and your limit's 10, so I definitely agree with Stacy that the number needs to go up. I'm comfortable with the 100,000, and I also, and I would think, and I would hope, and I know I've had conversations with Stacy, if it was a $35,000 item that had some controversy around it, I don't think that Stacy would be comfortable making that decision without bringing it to the board. But yourself, you hire a consultant, you're over 100,000, and so I appreciate the fact in the staff report that you listed some examples of where those items wouldn't have come to us under this if this was in place, and nothing in there seems to concern me too much. So I'm good with the 100, but I'm definitely interested in what the rest of my colleagues have to say.
Any other comments, questions, motions, direction of staff?
Public comment.
I did. Yep, I actually got that one right.
I'll move to approve recommendation.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. No opposition? No? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Item 12, move on to the passenger rail planning update.
All right, we are making up for not having a September meeting, and I'm going to try to be quick and say that the board authorized me to call a regional rail planning committee. I think that was at the July board meeting. We held our first meeting on October 16th, and it was the core group. So it was the board appointed group with the staff. So it was the board members, Director Espinoza, Director Serrato, Director Pedroso, and Director Nelson, and the MCAG TJPA YARTS team, I think, and then associated leadership from the jurisdictions that were there. We talked about purpose, scope, the meeting agenda, how we're going to move forward, the stakeholders, obviously, that we're going to be inviting. So the target is to reach out to our rail partners, to Caltrans, to the key partners that we want to have part of this process, and we'll be meeting again after the new year. So I'll just to let you know that meeting's underway, and we will continue keeping the board updated as progress occurs. Unless there's any other questions, that's my update. All
right. Comments from the public? Questions? No? Seeing none? Move on to 12B, fiscal year 2025-2026 unmet transit needs overview. Let's go to Stephanie Davis.
Hello all. Okay, so I'm here to provide a brief overview of our annual unmet transit needs process. We're currently beginning the the process for the fiscal year of 2025-26. So, the Transportation Development Act was enacted to provide funding that is to be used for transit and non-transit related purposes that comply with regional transportation plans. In order to use these funds effectively, counties are required to hold at least one public hearing annually where local transit riders provide comments and feedback that assist the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council and MCAG in determining any gaps in transit service that meet the definition of an unmet transit need. So we are currently in our first step of the process, which is public comment period. Flyers have been distributed on bus shelters throughout Merced County, as well as to social service agencies, and staff has participated in various local events to provide information to members of the public. Now, following the close of the public comment period in the second phase, the SSTAC, or the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council, will review the public comment and make recommendations to the MCAG Governing Board, you all. And in the final phase, you, the board, finalizes the process by determining if there are any unmet transit needs that are determined to be reasonable to meet. So, an unmet transit need, per the definition adopted by the board, is an inadequacy in the existing public transit services for persons recognized as transit dependent in Merced County. Now, here are examples of some potential unmet transit needs, which can be there's no transit service where someone lives, there's no transit service at certain times, which impedes their ability to get to school or work, or there's no transit service where I live, or there is transit service where I live, but there's more that's needed. Now, for an unmet transit need to be deemed reasonable to meet, it needs to meet this criteria where it needs to be criteria of feasibility, funding, and equity. And these are the minimum requirements. Other considerations to consider are community acceptance, potential ridership, and cost effectiveness. So now we are required to do one public hearing, but as you can see, this is the schedule of our current process. We have currently held 5 public hearings. We had 2 in Los Banos, 2 virtual. We had 1 in Merced in the Sandpipes room, and this will be our final public hearing. Outside of the public hearings, people can call in, email, or mail their comments to MCAG offices, and you can also go to our website and take our survey. So the public comment period did begin on September 1st, and October 31st is the close of the comment period. Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Yes, Stephanie, how has the turnout been? You guys have done quite a few now outreach events. What kind of turnout have you been seeing at those?
Well, at the outreach events, we have had some interested people, had a lot of questions about transit in general. At our public hearings, it's been a little bit minimal,
Okay.
to say the least.
If you had to put a number on it.
1.
Okay. Yeah, I did, and I knew the answer to that already, and it just, it's I guess it's frustrating sometimes is we when I drive around quite a bit and you see, here in Merced, I'll tell you that you see buses that have regular people on them, but I drive from Los Banos to here on a daily basis, and I drive at different times of the day and evening and whatnot, and you see these buses, and they're going down the road, and a lot of times there's no people on it. And, you know, and there's times where there are a handful of people on there, but it's like this is their opportunity to do outreach. So I guess we could just look at it glass half full and say that we're doing such a good job and we're meeting all the transit needs, that there's really not a reason for them, because if there are concerns, we're going to hear from them. And I do appreciate the fact that we're trying to reach people in any way that they want to be reached, whether it's in person, online, virtually, whatever. So kudos for continuing to do the good work, because I know that you guys put a lot of energy and effort in setting up these events, and then it's probably just a little bit disheartening when one person shows up. So keep up the good work.
Very excited.
Yeah.
One person.
Questions, Stephanie, and it may be for Stacy up here as well. I recently had a group of constituents out in Las Vegas reach out. Was that information passed through this?
It was passed to Serenity.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But yes,
Okay.
yes, essentially it's taken all in as that, yeah.
As unmet. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
I said one. Do we do any, to what extent are we doing targeted outreach to the schools, either to the UC or to Merced College or to the high schools and elementary schools as well?
Well, we did participate in an event at the UC this year, and we did get a lot of interest. However, most of the students rode cat tracks. So our focus is mainly on county service.
And kind of just to piggyback off that question, we have, on the west side, we have the two largest, tomato producers in the world. Has there been any coordination with the employers or any large employers as far as the challenges of going to and from work? I just know because they're outside city limits of Las Vegas, out in the county.
Currently, no, but I like to call this, this process is fluid. So every year, I hope to get better and better.
So large employers.
I just don't know. Yeah, they all. I mean, a few thousand people every summer have to commute out to those locations. So just an idea.
And I will say we'll also use it as an opportunity for Calvan's outreach too. So as we're talking, if we do some outreach to the larger employers that have local workforce transit needs, both our facility, our services, but also the Calvan's services as well. Okay.
And the bus, and Paul, to your point as well, the bus, the L and the T lines, they'll target Foster Farms, for example, another large employer. So there's certainly precedent for that.
Awesome. Any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you so much. All right, so we'll move on to item 12C, and this is going to be the public hearing for fiscal year 2025-2026 unmet transit needs. I'm going to open the public hearing at 4:04 p.m. and invite members of the public to come to the podium. When you get up here, please state your first and last name and the city or community of residence, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing.
And if I could just add on public comments, if you do exceed your 3 minutes of a public comment, you can give our office a call, send us an email, talk to our staff, send it in writing, so that if you aren't able to capture all of your input in today, we can get it through other means.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Marie, and I do live in Merced, but I'm coming to you today as a policy advocate from Leadership Council, and I'm speaking on behalf of a couple of folks that I work with in South Merced. So I host community meetings, monthly community meetings, sometimes more than a month, and work alongside residents that are part of the unincorporated county areas as well as within city limits. And I'm joined by one resident today who actually does believe that the city needs to revisit existing routes, but I want to share a couple of different suggestions. A few months ago, I came to this board raising the concern that flag down stops on Childs Avenue are unsafe. I spoke to Miss Serenity Anderson, who informed the community group that a stop assessment would be done in the future. I come here again today to raise those same concerns and then some. Flag down stops on Childs Avenue in front of the Golden Valley Clinic are unsafe due to there only being one lane in each direction. And a couple of the folks had mentioned that they have seen the bus stop there, although there is an official stop on 4th Street, just on the other side of the clinic. But folks have been asking for a bus turnout lane to be created in front of the clinic because it's a more recognizable and visible stop. And so we've began having a conversation with one of the directors from Golden Valley to begin facilitating a discussion as to what Golden Valley is comfortable doing, if they're willing to give up some sort of sidewalk or property to the city or to the county and figure out if there could be a bus turnout lane. But I'll keep you all in the loop if Golden Valley does want to proceed that way. So I just wanted to remind everybody of that conversation. We also hope that you are open to being part of this conversation if there is expressed interest on behalf of Golden Valley Health Center. Regardless, folks in South Merced do believe that while there are some bus stops in South Merced, more service is needed as more resources are in North Merced and there isn't enough bus stops on the south end that takes them to those resources in North Merced. And on another note, another resident suggested to Ms. Anderson during a community meeting that they would like to see a development of a grid route for bus stops after buses are replaced by EV buses in order for folks that want to be choice riders instead of just dependent riders to be able to access the public transit system. As of now, folks that want to be conscious of emissions and want a ride to a park, grocery store, just go across town, they're not able to without being on the bus all day. Another concern is of limited service hours for the paratransit services. A couple of folks that are interested in coming to South Merced community meetings aren't able to make it, unfortunately, because they need access to paratransit services due to the wheelchairs, but our community meetings don't start until 5 p.m. and that's when paratransit services tends to end. They're not able to get a ride back, to their home, and so they're hoping that this kind of issue can be addressed. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
That was efficient time use. All right.
All right, anyone else in the public hearing? No? And then online, correct? No. Yep. Go.
I just want to recognize, I think we have, I recognize at least one member of our SSTAC here. Do we have, yep. If you're in our SSTAC, our STAC, yep, two members. Thank you for coming today. We appreciate you being part of this process.
All right, we'll close the public hearing at 4:08 p.m. And this is an information item, no actions required at this time. So thank you. All right, move on to 13, action items. 13A, authorize a contract amendment with Via Mobility LLC, increasing the contract value by $97,500 for zone expansion and incorporating provisions for paratransit services. For this, we go to Serenity Anderson.
Good afternoon, directors. Thank you. So as this title states, we are looking to authorize the executive director to amend the contract with Via Mobility to increase it by $97,500 and include a zone for paratransit services. We entered into a contract with Via Mobility in September of 2023 for our microtransit services on the west side. This contract also included zone expansion, potential zone expansions on the east side for microtransit with potential zones in Atwater and Southeast Merced. It, however, did not include any paratransit services. I was here just a few months ago talking to you about the efficiencies and successes we have seen with the Via Mobility softwares, and we think that with the efficiencies, it will greatly improve our paratransit services. We'll be able to see more passengers and better services for our paratransit on the east side. We will also be able to open up the availability of the app and the cutting edge technologies that the west side sees as well. So we currently use a EcoLane for our paratransit. This will, as well as a IVR system, which is an interactive voice response for phone calls and alerts. These two services together are approximately $50,000 a year. This will be, the Via Mobility will include approximately $22,000, a little over $22,500 annually. And so we'll see those cost savings, and over the next 4 years of the contract, again, $97,500. So if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
First questions from the public. No? Directors?
Move to approve.
I just have one comment. We already passed saying that she could authorize up to 100,000, so she could have just skipped this item.
It's technically it's a $100,000 amendment. So because the board authorized the contract, this would be one I would still bring back to the board.
I asked that question earlier.
Yeah.
You opened yourself for that one.
I second.
All right, so a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? No. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 13B, direct staff to distribute the restated joint powers agreement for the Transit Joint Powers Authority from Merced County to the member agencies.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Joint Powers Agreement for TJPA is due for renewal, and as it did with MCAG, it requires each member agency to take action to adopt it. So while the governing board is not a signatory to the agreement, we are asking the board to direct staff to distribute the draft restated JPA to the member agencies for action. Council developed the draft by using the new MCAG agreement as the foundation, and considering how that document was heavily negotiated and vetted through the jurisdictions, we found that this approach could work as a solid foundation that would hopefully be a smooth renewal process for the TJPA JPA. So upon affirmative vote of the board, this document would be distributed to the TRB as the executive leadership, not the body, I'll say the executive leadership of the city, so city managers and the county CEO, to review and to agendize to have it adopted by the member agency. I also want to point out that similarly, this document, as it was, rather than take the old JPA and modify it to fit in the new provisions of the MCAG agreement, council started with the MCAG agreement. So in summary, to help understand the changes, the agenda packet, page 176, includes an itemized list of those changes, and the summary of those will also be sent to the jurisdictions along with the new document. Did I miss anything, council? Okay. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, questions from the public? Seeing none. Questions from the board?
Chair, so there a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you. Item 14, discussion items. There are none. Let's move on to 15. Action items. 15A, conduct public hearing for the Highway 59 landfill composting facility. For this, we'll start with Mr. Moore.
Good afternoon, Chair Yanis, members of the board. This item is progression in a contract that we started about 1.5 years ago for the compost program out at the Highway 59 landfill. As you may recall, several years ago, we issued an RFP for a contractor to operate the composting facility at the Highway 59 landfill, whereas before we had operated it in-house. Last summer, early in the summer, we came to you and awarded that contract to California Wood, doing business as Agerman. And this is the next step. As part of that project, the plan was to expand the existing 25,000 ton per year process to 75,000 tons per year by utilizing new technology. The advantage of this is we actually reduce the air emissions from the 25,000 ton a year project. And I'm going to ask Chris Mundak of Ascent Environmental to come up, and we'll talk a little bit about the environmental process. I do want to say, just to our Caltrans friends, I understand the pain of the environmental process. We have several items going through CEQA right now, and as we'll explain in a minute, we got thrown a curveball just a few weeks ago on this project, so we'll talk about that and we'll go from there. Chris?
Thanks, James. Hi, my name is Chris Montank. I think I was last in front of you earlier this year with respect to the scoping meeting for this very project. So we prepared a subsequent EIR to the Valley Fill project, which was a project that was originally approved by the board in 2016. So in earlier this year, July 12th, we issued a draft subsequent EIR for a 45-day public review period. Within that EIR, we had a detailed evaluation of the potential impacts, as well as potentially some of the benefits of this increased composting activity. As James mentioned, it would reduce air emissions. It would also reduce GHG emissions by about 2,300 tons per year. We also looked at biological resource impacts and culture resource impacts, since there would be a little bit of ground disturbance, primarily associated with some vegetation clearing in the southern portion of the landfill. After the 45-day public review period, we had 4 comment letters, one from California Department of Fish and Wildlife, one from Caltrans, one also from CalRecycle, and lastly from the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. We prepared formal response letters, which were included as part of the final EIR, which is, I think, part of your agenda packet today. There was one little curveball that did get thrown to us. The same day, pretty much, that we issued the final EIR, in accordance with CEQA requirements, you have to give at least 10 days for commenting agencies to review the responses that you've given to them. The California Fish and Game Commission actually also made a change to the candidacy of the western burrowing owl. It had previously been termed as a species of special concern. It is now a candidate species for listing as either threatened or endangered. Because of that, there is a procedural change that is necessary to one of the mitigation measures, just with respect to how, if discovered, and we actually, based on the habitat assessment, are not anticipating burrowing owl to be there, partly because there are no burrows for them to take over, which is kind of how they operate and nest. But we did, so that the EIR or an addendum to the EIR would not have to come back in front of you if burrowing owl were discovered there. We have included this errata, which then kind of amends that final bullet of mitigation measure 3.3-4. And I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions?
Yeah, mine has nothing to do with the burrowing owl. On 256 of our staff report, I had reached out to James, or James reached out to me earlier on the statements of overriding consideration. I just want to understand when 2.1, 2.2 benefits of the project, it's listed, it says error, bookmark not defined, and that when I see error, it kind of makes me think, okay, well, what's the error? And I don't understand what it is.
So there was a little bit of a formatting error here. So with findings of fact and statement of overriding considerations, you have to make a statement of overriding considerations where you have a new significant impact. We did not in that case. So that what happened there was sections were removed, but then when the TOC was updated, that's why that error showed up.
The TOC is what?
The table of contents.
Oh.
So if you actually flip to that section, the data's in there saying we don't need to have a statement of overriding considerations, but within the table of contents itself, that just left there, and it said basically I don't have anything to identify with, which is why that error showed up in the table of contents.
So, like as I did not read all of this because it's a lot of it's over my head. But as I was following the table, it goes from like 1.9.1, and then all of a sudden I get into all these 3s and 4s, and then it made me think, well, I didn't even find 2s in there. And then actually, if we scrolled further down, I did find the 2s in there where it did say that. So, okay, that part just threw me when I saw the error part there.
And if I can clarify, the 3s are probably referring to the analysis that's in the draft EIR, because the impacts there are 3.3-1 and that kind of thing. So that may be where some of the confusion was coming from.
Perfect. Thank you.
I will add that we also have Mr. Cervantes from Agerman here, if there's any questions for the contractor.
I just have one question, and it's just for my own. If the Fish and Game has accepted a petition to list it, it's not listed yet? Is that, I mean, or is it, yes, it is listed once they accept the petition?
It's not listed, but for the purposes of CEQA, we treat it as if it is a special status species, as a T&E species.
Okay.
Just because by the time you get to implementation, it may change, and it may actually be listed. It's a 12-month process to consider a candidate species.
Yeah, okay.
So,
and then let Fish and Game know they do not burrow.
Any other questions? Comments from the board? Questions from the public? No, seeing none. Do we have a motion?
Okay, actually, as part of the procedure here, what we need to do is actually go into a public hearing, and then we have 2 resolutions for you to approve as the board, to certify that, and then to accept the recommendation on the...
So this is 15A1 and 2 combined? Okay. 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 All right. So thank you, James. Now I'll open the public hearing on the Highway 59 landfill composting facility and associated EIR and the statement of overriding consideration. We'll open this at 4:21 and invite members of the public to come forward to the podium. When you do, please state your first and last name and city or community of residence, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Open that up. Don't everybody run up at once. Okay. All right. All right. So at 4:21 and a half, we will close the public hearing. We'll say 4:22. Seeing no members of the podium, close the public hearing. Now the board is being asked to adopt resolution 2024-10-24-05, certifying the final supplemental EIR, and to adopt resolution 2024/10-24-05, approving the facility and adoption of the CEQA findings of fact and statement of overriding considerations. I'm glad I didn't memorize that.
I just, if I could, I just want to make sure that I prompted to take both actions at once. Can we do that? Okay, good. Ignore my comment, please.
Motion by Silvera. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Espinoza. All those in favor? Aye. No opposition.
Goes aye.
Okay. Double checking. All right. Motion passes. Thank you. Move on to 15B. Adopt resolution 2024/10-24-06, authorizing the acceptance of a grant to establish battery collection sites across Merced County.
Yes, thank you. This is one of those projects that we could have probably put on consent, but we thought we wanted to actually acknowledge that we are receiving just shy of $281,000 from the Department of Energy to establish a collection program for all types of batteries. This will be established at all of the libraries throughout the county, as well as all of the city halls and county offices. We will look to expand that program as we move along. We actually have a kickoff meeting with the DOE on Monday, and we hope to implement this project by the beginning of January.
Yeah. So it says we're going to accept batteries. Is there a limit to the types and kinds we can accept?
Generally, what we look at is, particularly among the lithium-ion batteries, is anything up to 11 pounds. So
and how do you limit that? Size of the hole?
It'll have to go to one of our quarterly household hazardous waste collection events if it's larger than that.
Right. I mean, it's called joking aside. I mean, there's a potential for fires in this box, right? So, I mean, is that mitigated?
We have certain storage containers that we can store the batteries in. The reality, most of these lithium-ion batteries, if they're not on a charger, they're pretty safe. The issue we have at the site is when they get crushed by equipment, is when they spark. If they're just inert in the box, and the boxes aren't very big, once they fill up, we'll be collecting them and replacing them with an empty box.
Okay. No danger that post would cross. Okay. All right. Yeah, glad you got it all.
Any other comments, questions? Questions from the public? No? All right. Do you have a motion?
Second.
Motion, slightly distracted. Motion over here. We have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Director Serrato?
Aye.
All right. All right.
I'm going to excuse myself. I got another minute to go. Wait,
All right.
finish.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Very much.
All right, 15C was already moved up to 11A and a half, so 16 discussion items. We have none. Move on to 17, Executive Director's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to mention a couple things. Listed on the agenda is a really exciting update on REAP 1 funding. So if you recall, through the REAP 1 program, we are doing a multi-jurisdictional, we did a whole bunch of stuff through the REAP program, but part of that is the jurisdictions came together and we're doing a multi-jurisdictional housing element. And if you recall those funding agreements, the jurisdictions paid a share of the cost, and we're essentially cost sharing that agreement or that product with the the funding that came through the program. We now are wrapping up as a region the San Joaquin Valley's allocation of the REAP 1 funds. It's coming to a close, and they're realizing that other MPOs or the COGs did not expend all of their funding. So we have submitted a request through Fresno COG to HCD to be able to draw down hopefully a little more than I think $500,000. I think it's $600 or so $1,000 that our partners in the valley did not use. And if we're successful, the intent is to reimburse the jurisdictions for the share that you all paid out of your local funds for, so as long as you didn't use LEAP, to reimburse the jurisdictions for what came out of pocket for the multi-jurisdictional housing element. So more to come on that, but fingers crossed, it looks really good. My apologies for the cancellation of the city-county dinner. I appreciated everybody's responsiveness in trying to get enough seats filled, but ultimately it's a busy time of year apparently. So thank you for being understanding about that. I do want to add, not on this list, that on November 4th, which is a Monday at 10 a.m., can I steal your thunder? We are helping the city of Las Banas plan a groundbreaking for the Das Palace. You're right here. City. Thank you. So you already know what I'm going to say. The city of Das Palace to do a groundbreaking for their Lorraine Street Bridge replacement project. So that's right off of Center, which was a regional Measure V project. So this will be Das Palace's second regional Measure V project that is going to be funded. So you will be getting the invitation shortly, but mark your calendars. The 4th. It's a Monday, 10 a.m. Lastly, two things to get on your calendars are the annual open house for MCAG. It'll be after the board meeting on December 19th at 5 o'clock down the street at our office. Actually, I think the meeting might be at our office too. So we're going to be cozy. And then the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Conference, which we will be hosting, is April 9th through the 11th of 2025. So I will have one last thing that I'm going to ask, and then I will be quiet for the rest of the meeting. Please share, and we're trying to do it too, but please share that conference date far and wide. The associations that you work with that are planning events for the spring, let folks know that the Valley is locked up on those days and they're all going to be in Merced, and hopefully you can too. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Item 18, Director's Reports. I'm going to start on the end. Director Serrato.
None for me, thank you, sir.
All right. You look very fresh and rested. Director Silvera. Going down here. Oh, I could.
I usually don't say much, but I will say today, it's too bad that Darren's not here. I wanted to thank him for his nice comments at the supervisors meeting about the Atwater's Economic Development Summit that we had a couple weeks ago. It was well attended. We had over 70 people in attendance. And I think probably the better thing out of the whole thing was that the economic development directors from the jurisdictions got together afterwards and discussed about how we can do this on a bigger scale, like the Policy Council, something like that once a year. So that was pretty good. And then also just a quick comment on the microtransit. Atwater looks forward to working with MCAG on that.
Great.
So.
I have nothing. I'm going to pass it down to Rich Prayer.
I actually do have something for Das Palace, other than the Stacy stealing my thunder. We actually got approval. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that PG&E will be turning on our brand new library electricity and Del Hill Hall remodel on November 1st. It better be November 1st. We've been waiting since May, so PG&E, please come to Das Palace. And they started on, thank you, on Palm Avenue, finally, after months of waiting for that. They waited until the weather is going to be bad, but that's okay. Our Palm Avenue will be repaved, and it will be lovely to drive down there. So I want to thank you for all of the support that you have given Das Palace in the last 8 years, and I have one more meeting, and then I'll be finished. So thank you very much.
Nothing to report. All right. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 4:30.